So good morning. I've got a rant today about providing broadband access into the community. Recently, my local newspaper down here in South Texas, a paper called The Monitor, ran a story about a city here that is providing, quote, free Wi-Fi access to the community. Anytime I see a headline like that locally, it sparks my interest. So I opened it up and I started to read it. And what I found was that there's a company that's providing free Wi-Fi into a community with all these caveats that aren't listed, right? On the onset, it sounds great. They talk about bridging the digital divide and closing the homework gap and providing opportunity for people. But the problem is when you read deeper into this, it's not at all what it seems. And it's really frustrating because programs like this kind of tarnish the image and the reputation of bigger programs that are really trying to make a difference. And in this case, the things that stood out to me are that they're providing free access to people who live in the community at 2 megabit per second. In the words of every teenager, right? I don't understand why a internet service provider would think it's a good idea to provide 2 megabits per second worth of access. And on top of that, when you read into the fine print, they're specifically denying access to video services. Now, that I can understand Netflix and Facebook Live and whatever, but that's part of the learning experience. And not only that, if you're trying to do something to increase education in the community, why would you do that? I mean, if you can't watch video, you can't do e-learning, and you can't do remote access into a classroom, and you can't see all the rich multimedia stuff that happens, in a traditional classroom environment. And so I wasn't going to say anything, right? But then this morning, I see this report from Benton Headlines, a fantastic service, and the subject is report reveals surprising data about mobile broadband usage in schools. So I want to highlight some of the things that they talk about in here. The average monthly data usage that these guys saw in a 5-month period from September 2016 to January 2017. So this is like a year old. So what they saw over a 5-month period was that the average monthly data usage of someone who's using their service, and this was an LTE service, is 373 gigabytes of data worth of consumption. 373 gig. That's a ton. That's a ton of service. And it's not breaking it down amongst what it is. It's just saying that, they offered this as an unlimited service and they opened it up and let, students do whatever they needed to do. 41% of these students, by the way, it was so that they could have connectivity. Another 28 was so that they could save money on internet access. That's when they surveyed the students and the district. The two main drivers for this were to provide connectivity while the students were at home, and that's 41%, and 28% of them were to lower the cost for internet service. That's something that we're running into down here in South Texas, right? We have people who may not have it as a priority to get internet access at their home for their students, for themselves, whatever it is. And that's what's widening that chasm, right, with the homework gap, is there's not a lot of priority there because it is expensive. And so that's another thing about this free Wi-Fi project that they're doing down here locally, is they're allowing it to be free for 2 megabit per second, but if you want anything else, they're going to charge $40 a month for a 2 megabit, a dedicated 2 megabit per second connection. With the Lifeline program still intact for now, you can get 30 megabit per second for $14 a month from Spectrum, less from AT&T. So I guess my point with this rant is be careful about what you get into or what people try and pitch you when they talk about providing free connectivity to a community. I happen to think we're doing it right down in far Texas. There's a fantastic radio interview that was done, and we're doing 25 megabit per second for each one of the students that are connected. And we're seeing about the same. I have one house that's about 389 gig per month, so it's right in the same ballpark with that amount of utilization. So, when you're transferring 400 gig a month, you're not going to want to do it on a 1 or 2 megabit connection. And the problem that I have is that overall, I think things like that, services like that, are gonna put a terrible taste in the mouth of the community and of the community leaders and everyone who's watching that program. And that is only going to stand to want communities to distance themselves from projects that are actually trying to do some good. So that's my rant for the morning. Anyway, later.